Hello, my name is Bennett Holman. I'm an assistant professor of the history and philosophy of science at Yonsei University in Seoul, South Korea. My research focuses on medical science, particularly medical evidence, and how medical evidence and medical research is affected by industry funding. Currently, I'm working with a group of doctors from Oxford University's Center for Evidence-Based Medicine. We're reevaluating some evidence on a drug that was taken off the market to determine whether or not the evidence is sufficient to conclude that the drug was responsible for birth defects. One of the projects that I'm working on is a collaboration with medical researchers from the Oxford University, from Sydney University, and from Oklahoma University. And we're looking at how conflicts of interest statements are presented in journals, to what extent they are complete, that is, do doctors adequately disclose the conflicts of interest that they have? And we're thinking through about how that information could be made more usable. A typical article in a medical journal might be 2 pages long, and the conflict of interest disclosure might be 35 pages long. Right? Even if this is complete, it's not usable information. So we're thinking through how to present it in such a way that that it can be used to inform doctors' judgments about whether or not they should be concerned with the conflicts of interest that are present. I'm currently working on a project on dual-use research, using formal modeling to think through whether or not restrictions on publication of research come at an epistemic cost, or whether or not we can restrict research in certain ways without impairing science. Finally, some of the projects that I'm working on relate to consider the difference between bias and perspective. So on some level, there's a sense in which we all know, there's a sense in which the phrase, everyone is biased, says to us that, everyone comes from some perspective. We all come from somewhere with certain assumptions we take for granted. But there's also a sense in which we want to reserve bias as sort of a negative judgment of something that someone's doing against the norms that they should be following. And so we're trying to pull apart perspective, which is just to say that science is done by people that come from certain backgrounds with certain assumptions, from bias, which is some violation of the epistemic norms of science. And then finally, one of the projects I'm looking at is what are the responsibilities of science? There's a growing consensus within the philosophy of medicine that values play an important role in scientific reasoning. The question then becomes, what responsibility do scientists have to the public to communicate the ways in which their personal values affected the conclusions that they reached in their research?